Hello there. I need to do a little bit of an investigation on this Roland MC-303 that I just picked up because it has a kind of funky volume knob. The pot or something in there is bad, but we'll take a look at that in a moment. First, you might want to know what this thing actually is. So first off, sorry about the flickering here. I have no idea what the frequency that those LEDs are PWMing at, and I can actually see it in person when it's in my peripheral vision, so it's pretty slow. So it's kind of a bad design there. It's not 60, it's not 50, it's not 100. I couldn't get it to match in the camera quickly, and oh well. But anyway, this is a music sequencer. I think it stands for music composer, is what the MC means. But it's a groove box. Basically, it allows you to layer instrument patterns and create songs as sequences and switch between them. So I can just actually, this is a pre-made sequence at the beginning here, and if I just hit play, you can get an idea of the sort of thing that this is designed to do. Now, it comes with a lot, I think 300 built-in sequences. But you don't have to just use the built-in patterns. You can make your own. I've barely had any time with this. I got it today, so I don't really know how to make the patterns. But I really need to solve that volume knob issue before I can do anything like that. So let me just play this in the background. Okay. We're going with this, I guess. And if I adjust the volume, it'll just cut out. And I'm not quite sure why. And at some points, it'll lose stereo. So something's not quite right with this thing. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a potentiometer or a rotary encoder in there, so I'm a little weirded out by that. But if I pick something here, let's go back to, here we go, a long note. I can adjust the cutoff, which is a low pass or high pass filter. But the thing is while this feels very linear, this doesn't affect all channels. So it's either reading that the position's changing on this, and then applying the new setting to the new track or part, or what, I'm not really sure. So unless it's like super clever, this is not like a pure analog output. So it's possible that there's a digital interface controlling everything. So it might just be very simple to fix this, or it might be totally horrible. I don't know. So I'm going to have to open this up so we can take a look at that. But let's go ahead and do that now. All right, a couple of things to note with this. So first off, the front plate does sort of come apart. I was kind of hoping that the buttons weren't quite so attached, but they are adhesively attached. So removing those would, I mean, I could put them back, but it wouldn't, it's not a good idea. There's a hair stuck in there? Okay. But now that this is separated from the electronics, I can get a little more aggressive with cleaning it. So that's still good. So I'm going to pull that aside here. And we have three different parts to this. I was really hoping not to have to like take this apart, but I really did have to. So this is the main synthesizer portion of the board. If you've worked on Roland stuff, this kind of board is definitely going to be familiar. My SK88s have this. The MT-200, that's it. That has something similar to this. Same kind of construction too, with the extra layer of connections with the I called them cheater traces in that video. I'm not sure what the official term would be, but it doesn't seem like they're actually used anywhere. So it's just kind of standard process for them, for their logic boards, I guess. Probably adds an extra layer of protection on top of everything, but it's not really needed once it's inside, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, this comes from the era of the Sound Canvas stuff. And looking at chip dates, yeah, this is mid 90s. It's a 96 part. That one's 97. 97. So Yeah, I should probably replace the Sierra 2032 while I'm in here, but it was holding, so I don't feel particularly inclined yet, and it's really actually not that difficult to get to, so it's not that big of a concern right now, and I don't have any great ones at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and not worry about that. One other board, we have the output stage. This was working totally fine, so I'm not going to focus on this too much. And then we get to the main event, the interface board, and this is why I didn't want to really go to town on cleaning this with fluids on the front plate, because I knew all of this would be underneath of there and could seep down into it. But yeah, so without this there, I can now really spend a lot more time cleaning it. So first off, this is very clearly a spinner, and I can feel there are detents in it, so that's a pretty solid indication. But yeah, it just goes full 360. But these are all labeled VR, which stands for variable resistor, not virtual reality. So those are all potentiometers, and they do look like it. They only have 3 pins, so that's the 2 edges, and then the wipe that goes back and forth. So yep, that's what those are. I could probably find a replacement for these without too much trouble if I need to, but after looking at this one a little bit, I definitely know what's wrong. It might be possible to fix it. It's going to be a little bit of work. All right, now if we look at one of these good ones, we can see, yeah, it's pretty dirty. Just ignore that. But we can see that it has these little tabs that go down for mounting, and they go down to the board, and I suspect it's that whole metal part that wraps up and around. But on the bad volume pot here, they're loose, and the main chassis is separating there, which would kind of make sense for how it was failing, because as the wipe gets up to the top here, it's open and it's not making contact. So I'm hoping if I push it down and then bend those tabs back in place, maybe I can fix it without needing to replace it. Now I have a sneaking suspicion I'm never going to have a more direct shot than this to deoxit that while it's open. So I am going to go ahead and do that while it's bad. There we go. It doesn't really feel any better, but makes me feel better to put it in there. All right. Let's see about clamping that down. It takes a lot of force to push it back down. So obviously, if we look at it here, we can see that this knob probably got whacked and pulled forward. None of the other ones flex like that. This one is not so hot. Wondered if maybe I should go desolder this and then try and crimp it. That would probably be better. Yeah, let me do that. Okay, now that we can get a better look at this thing, yeah, it isn't doing so great. And I was right, this does just clamp down to the bottom. That's a shame. That's that same part used for mounting and putting it together, but oh well, hopefully it can be fixed. This will collapse down all the way, so it should theoretically be possible. Let me go ahead and just give it a shot here, see what happens. Ooh, that seemed kind of promising. All right, I'm liking it so far. Not going to be able to get it all the way back because there will be some spring in the metal, so it will never go all the way back, unfortunately. But that is a marked difference. That's much better. So hopefully that fixes it. Knob feels fine. It's a little tight at the extremes, but yeah, I should probably start shopping for a replacement for this before this one totally fails. Stuff is painfully slow right now, so that's not going to be very fun. That's why I'm willing to take an attempt at fixing this one. But hopefully that works. Let's put it back together now. And there we go, back on, and it does not move anywhere near as much. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't just replace this one with any of the other ones. Those ones are not 6-pin pots, so they wouldn't do the full stereo, so they just won't work. I will have to order that one in particular, which I'm sure is not going to be easy to find. So hooray. Hopefully this works and I don't have to worry about that, but I should probably still order one because it's compromised, but yeah. Now it's time to start putting it back together. So one thing I'll mention as I do this, actually, I guess this is the starting point here. You may have noticed all of these cables here. So these are, I think these, yeah, and that's exactly why. I think these are my least favorite type of connector because it's just wire. And then it's tinned. Okay, well, it's ribbon cable, and it's tinned. And then you just kind of have to jam the pins into the mating socket on the other end, and it's just terrible. They bend like this, and then you gotta straighten them out. I didn't worry about taking them out of the connectors because I noticed, let me grab the synth board here. Every connector on here had a dot, and it matches up with the colored wire, so it's yellow on this side here. So it was all good, except for this one right here did not have a dot. So I put one on there with that black Sharpie, and that will line up to that, but everything else is probably fine. So hopefully it's, yeah, just gonna go back together easily from here. Okay, there we go. That is it reassembled. Time to see how the repair went. This is absolutely the first time firing it up here and shorting out the little thing. All right, it at least turns on. I'm hearing sounds. Yeah, that thing's hosed. Yeah, that thing is really, really messed up. Well, that's too bad. Gonna have to order one of those, I guess. Oh, that's probably not gonna be fun at all to find. Alright, well, it's now been a couple of days, and I've taken some time to get to know this thing a little bit better. Even though this volume knob isn't totally working, I still haven't fixed that. It doesn't actually prevent me from using it because I connect this thing to a mixer or something anyway, so it's not like it really matters. I don't need to adjust the volume, and it's outputting it, I'm pretty sure, line level anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But now I have a much better grip on using this thing, so let me walk you through some of the things. So this is a composition device. It's not really meant to be played, per se. You're not just supposed to use the keys. As a matter of fact, the keys kind of suck. They're not like velocity sensitive, definitely not aftertouch. They're more just a row of 16 buttons for a measure, and they just happen to also be used for inputting note data. So, I mean, obviously you can play it, but you're not really meant to, but that's an option. So what it is meant to do is set up patterns. So I'd kind of shown one of these at the beginning. Let me go to a built-in pattern here. Okay, so this pattern, we might be able to see, yeah, we can't actually edit anything on it. This pattern will have a light that chases through, and it'll be a certain number of bars, and it's made up of 8 different parts. So if you play this, you can actually mute different elements of this, and then listen to each one of those individually. And the idea is that you can build up a song with these individual discrete parts on the fly. So there are a lot of these preset parts in here. I think that these are meant for like a DJ trying to mix 2 records together and they need some kind of filler between them. And that's the use case for that. But you can also use this to compose. I'm just surprised that there are quite as many of those filler patterns in there as there are. The MC-303 is not extremely highly well regarded because there are actually so few places to store those patterns. I think there's 300 of these preset patterns, but there's only 50 user pattern locations, and you can start to consume that memory. The successor, the MC-505, I believe, added a lot more user memory and some other controls related to the knobs over MIDI, I believe. So that's actually an interesting thing here. The knobs on this kind of suck. So let's say we want to change a part here. So we're going to go to this. Let's bump up an octave. Okay, so we have this note, all right, and we want to adjust the cutoff. All right, that's fine. But let's say we also want to adjust the level of this part. So we're going to hit function, which will bring us to the level, which is the same knob as cutoff, and we can adjust the volume. But if you're happy with the cutoff and you want to max out the level and then want to slowly fade the cutoff, you can't. That hit that it just did is where it was matching up onto the knob's current position. You cannot like go back to where the knob last was. Once you've switched modes and you try and switch modes after the knob has been moved, you end up with this harsh shift, and it's not tremendously well designed. This is where really all of these knobs should have been spinners like this is, rather than actual potentiometers, in addition to just being a little bit more robust. But yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. They would have had to have put like a separate 7-segment display somewhere to show the value of the spinner, but they could have done that. I don't know. It's just that kind of really hurts some of the usability of this. And I was trying to compose something on here actually, and I found myself wanting to adjust the volume and the level and the cutoff, and that was kind of a problem. But let's actually do some composition on here, and it's extremely easy to do. Let's do a basic pattern here. So, okay, I'm going to first say that this lowercase u, I believe this is what this is. The lowercase u here means that a pattern has not been set here. If I hit play, yeah, empty pattern. It doesn't have an M because it's a 7-segment display, and it tries to use an N in place of an M in multiple places, and it's kind of funny. But this uppercase U is a preset pattern, and we'll get to that at the end here. When I first got this, it was totally full of patterns, and I did not realize the difference between the upper and lowercase u, and I couldn't change some settings on the parts. You have to go through and erase all the parts, which you can do with a little shortcut over here. I'm actually going to hit exit to cancel that, although it's empty, so it won't matter. But you can also hold shift and power it on, and you'll get a just factory reset mode, and that's what I ended up having to do because all of the patterns were set, and most of them were just empty. I think someone hit record, set it up, and then didn't do anything with it. But anyway, let's go ahead and do a step pattern. So this is going to treat this like a drum machine. Now, we can set our time signature, which you cannot alter after you set up a pattern, I've found. And that's the biggest difference between a lower and an uppercase U. So that was kind of messing with me. What I need to do is go to the length, because I want to set up a simple one measure pattern. I'm good. That's the tempo, 120 beats per minute. I don't really want to count at all. I'll just set that to 0. Since I'm going to do is a step pattern, I won't need that. I'm good with the 909, so let's use that and go into step mode. Okay, so we're going to hit play, and now we have a light chasing across here, and what we need to do is set the position for the notes that we want to put in. So this light will always be chasing, but we can also add some, and it will start to play them. Now you can hold shift to choose the note you want. So I actually want to pick that one, and I want to go ahead and I think maybe every other note here. Nah, that's too much. Just on the beat. Excellent. Okay. Now I want to, I'm going to go ahead and make this an tis pattern. There we go. And that's it. We just programmed in a drum pattern. Pretty awesome. A lot of people say that this thing's best use is as a drum machine. I can kind of understand, because that really wasn't that difficult, but I feel like there's probably better ones out there. I don't know. This does have a lot of good patches in it for tones in it for drum machines, 909, 808, and other good ones. So I could see that. But yeah, this is pretty nice. And then you can go ahead and do the same kind of input for like regular instruments as well, but I'm not going to do that for the moment. Now, one of the really cool things about the 303 here that I've never had the opportunity to use is the Arpeggiator. So we can go to here and we can pick an arpeggio pattern. So if I enable, or let's just actually start out by hitting a note here. All right, I'm gonna bring that up a little bit. Here, go up an octave. Perfect. Okay, plain note. Actually, just stop the drum pattern here. Plain note, enable the arpeggiator, and now we have something interesting going on. Now we have two things that we can adjust with the arpeggio knob. It calls this the accent rate, but it's really more like making it staccato. So I'm not exactly sure why they're calling it accent instead of staccato, but that's the effect that I've noticed. And if you put it in function mode, you can choose an octave range for it to use, and that's interesting. But we're gonna go ahead. I think I just want to leave it as that. Yeah, there we go. So the arpeggiator it's really complicated, and it can do many different things. So if we hold two notes on this particular pattern for the arpeggiator, it'll alternate between them, and you can hold many and it will cycle through them. But different patterns do different things. This one just uses them as a chord. And there are 30 different patterns in here. Some of them are kind of useless and just random. Although I'm pretty sure I've actually heard this in a song before with a very similar instrument. So it just depends on what you want, but there are many, many patterns in here. Okay. I kind of want to end this video now on a look at the pattern that I put together here. So this is just a single measure, actually. But I designed it in a way that I can attempt to perform an entire simple song with it. And I figure that would be a good way to end this video, is to try and perform that. I'm not very good at this yet. I'm still learning a lot of things about this and having some minor issues like with the knobs, like I mentioned. I actually found a bug with it, and I'll put a recording up here, trying to switch between the low pass filter and the level on the fly. I've managed to nearly mute the part and not being able to bring it back predictably. So yeah, that's kind of weird. I found that just hitting the function button and twiddling both the cutoff and the pan knob kind of fixed it, but it's, I don't know. There are supposedly ROM updates for this thing. I don't know which version this is or how to check that. That's something I should look into at some point. But again, I am mostly still only loosely familiar with this. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here and then perform this as an outro. So if you want to support the channel, I am on Patreon, but for now, that's it. And hopefully this starts making some appearances in the background of videos, because I can quickly whip up some background music now with this. And I'll see you next time.